Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we are back, and we're back to talk about the Alberta crisis. We talked about a lot about the secession movements, like in Greenland, and along with Alberta. But we're specifically in Canada at large, too. It's important to mention that. But we talk about Alberta because Alberta is in a special situation. Because we know that Canada has disowned us. Canada doesn't like us anymore for some stupid reason because we're holding them accountable. Because allegedly and supposedly we're friends. And Canada is in denial about it. But friends hold each other accountable when they make mistakes. And the fact is, Canada has screwed us over for years. Since it became independent in the 70s, Canada has taken advantage of the United States. And we've had presidents that have talked about stepping up to Canada. Ronald Reagan flirted with the idea. But you got someone like Donald Trump, who has already been bashing Canada since the 1970s in his career. And you have him now the commander-in-chief. You know he's not going to back down on this. Are you kidding? No! We know how hardline Donald Trump is on this issue, and how a hard believer and staunch believer he is. And what we're seeing here is also, in fact, Canada is just saying they're just blown out. They're just butthurt that we're pointing it out. Hey, Canada, we don't like your trade deal. Canada doesn't want to change their trade war. That's how it goes. And they're mad, they're screaming, they're whining and crying. Let's be honest. These people in Canada, the Canadian patriots, they aren't pro-Canada, they're pro-liberal. They're pro-Trudeau, and they're pro-Carney. Okay? Because in their mind, Canada is the left. And they are 100% correct, because Canada has turned into a left-wing state. Canada has become the left. And they see the United States as the right? Especially if it's under Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in their mind, is Putin. So, and yeah, we know this because they're so wired and so connected with Europe. I mean, they are part of the British Commonwealth. London propaganda, as we know it. So, obviously, Canada is a left-wing country. 80% of the country would vote for Kamala Harris if it were a state. So that's why I'm not a fan of Canada joining the United States. But what about Alberta? Alberta is very open. Now it says 36% of Albertans, a majority of UCP voters, want to leave Canada. Now, 36%, that's a low number. Well, it would be kind of a crazy thing to think about if a state were to leave the United States. 36% is a very good number for a secession movement, okay? Ideally, provinces leaving countries are unpopular. Why? Because there's a sense of national identity. There's a number of national identity, and although most Canadians seem to be opposed, most Albertans seem to be opposed of leaving, there is a good amount, double-digit amount, almost 40%, that are willing to actually want to leave. And I only predict this number is just going to continue to rise. We're at already 36%. You just need it to trend a little bit upward. Now, once again, this referendum, it has been confirmed, but you're not going to get an independent Alberta this year. You're going to get You have an independent Alberta that will be taking place in 2026. A referendum will be taking place in the legislature. The premier, or the governor, quote, of Alberta, has come out and said that she would respect the outcome. Meaning that, oh, hey, if this isn't necessarily an endorsement, but if the vote is finalized that Alberta wants to leave, hey, look, she might just go forward and say, hey, look, Kearney, we're done. She might sign the divorce with Ottawa, and this is only the beginning of the end of Canada. And we are 100% for it, because I can guarantee you, no one's happy right now. Oh, you have the so-called patriots of Canada. They're all liberals. They're all liberals, and we know they don't care about their country. We know that. They just care about left-wing extremism. So, we're going to take a look at this 3-minute video for more context and information in regards to the possible secession, because it's actually becoming more likely. And what does this mean in regards to support?
36% of Albertans are leaning towards a vote to leave Canada. That's the result of the latest Angus Reid poll, which also found that number is 65% amongst UCP voters. Alberta's premier admitted this week in an interview with CTV that a separation referendum is a, quote, outlet for angry conservatives. New legislation that will make it easier to have a vote, she hopes, will keep the UCP united. But some say it's already too late for that.
The UCP has decided that they are Canada first, not Alberta first. And so there are many, many UCP supporters from every end of the province who decided that the Republican Party best fits their values.
The Republican Party of Alberta, led by a former UCP organizer, is now traveling the province, holding events and signing up members who do not agree with Danielle Smith's position that Alberta should stay in Canada.
I'm not entirely sure how you can lead a province or a party if 65% of your membership and your base support something that the leadership of that party does not.
Political scientist Dwayne Brad expects a referendum vote will happen in 2026, and it will be bitterly divisive amongst Albertans. He believes the issue will drive a wedge in the UCP, saying some even want to join Donald Trump's America.
And then there's another segment of the party that goes, this is the stupidest thing we've ever heard, that our concern is about low taxes and keeping the NDP out of office, not running away from Canada. Well, how do you keep all of those people in control? And so that's why there's so many contradictions with what Smith has been saying.
And you gotta also push and make the point that, hey, look, what you're going through is so unnecessary. It's not normal. It's not normal to have drones flying around your house, telling you to get back into your house because of a silly pandemic. Not normal. It is not normal to take untested vaccines, forcing it into the bodies of your own constituents in order to work and put food on the table. That's not normal. It is not normal to celebrate Pride Month and make it mandatory. Not normal. It is not normal to throw Christians and Catholics in jail because they believe that there are only two genders and that there is a man and a woman. Men and women. Only man and a woman can marry. That's not normal. And equivalently, that is fascism. It absolutely is. The deep state is clenched. It has a good clench. It's clenching. Canada. It's clenching Canada, and eventually, people want out. People want out, and I justify it absolutely. So. They say the Liberals and the UCP, they may say, or something like that. The people that want to stay, the pro-Canada people, they're saying, oh, they're throwing a fit. This is good. They're going to be in South Carolina mode. This is going to start a civil war. And I'm like, no. Because ideally, they shouldn't have to put up with this. No. Canada voted to destroy their own country. Sacrifice it. Burn it in a pile of garbage. A couple weeks ago. Okay? That is consequential. Because you have half of your state that's not going to put up with that garbage. Alberta is a very conservative province. And yes, they're not going to want to be a part of this liberal area. You have conservative areas in the United States wanting to join red states. Notice they're all liberally run. Just think about it. Hang on. Greater Idaho, you have Eastern Oregon. They're campaigning to leave Oregon to join Idaho. You got Northern California wants to do that too. They want to join Greater Idaho. Then you have a Northern Colorado County wanting to merge with Wyoming. You have Western Minnesota wanting to join South Dakota. You have, trying to think, yes, you got a couple counties in New York, including Sullivan County, voting to merge with Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania is not technically a red state. It's more free compared to New York. You also have, more recently, Southern Illinois pushing to join Indiana. And now we have Alberta wanting to join the United States. All this has something in common. You know what's something in common about this? Wait for it. Yeah, they're all leaving liberal countries / states. They're leaving liberal areas to join conservative areas. So we know by the fact that we have liberals via United States, by the way, literally leaving California, Minnesota, New York, Illinois. They're losing electoral votes. Different electoral map in 2030 with the new census. They're leaving. They don't want to be a part of this anymore. And this is going to form a difficult scenario, but there will also have people leaving. It's not just a United States thing, it's currently an international thing. Well, if you count Canada as international, it's just up, like above us. But we're going to continue, take a look at this. But I think when he's saying, oh, you have the message, this isn't a good message, well, I think the reality is, I think most Canadians don't realize how rough they got it. I don't think most Canadians realize this isn't what they're going through is absolutely not normal. We know the Europeans think it's normal. There are some Canadians that are looking down at us and saying, look, we could be like that. We could be looking down at the U.S. They're saying, hey, look, we could be like the United States. But the question is, does Ottawa want to be like the United States? And our answer is probably not. So let's go ahead and continue.
So many contradictions with what Smith has been saying.
Aside from the Oilers, Alberta separation is clearly the talk of the province. Should Alberta leave?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Just economically, we should separate ourselves from those who do not want us to succeed.
It's not practical. There's no advantages to, and I think Canada's a pretty good country. People like Danielle Smith and her supporters have always got petty grievances, and they always will.
Would you like a referendum? Do you think that's a good idea to settle it one way or the other?
No, and I stand with our Indigenous peoples in saying that there's treaty land here in Alberta. We are on Indigenous land.
She seems like that type of
UCP's
person.
Bill 54 is...
I got that feeling right when she appeared on the screen. Oh, no, this is a woke liberal. All right.
still making its way through the legislature, but when it passes and comes into effect, it'll take just 177,000 votes to trigger a referendum.
And I think that, I'm like, going back to the Indigenous thing, I think that Alberta would respect the Indigenous. I'm like, come on. Alaska's doing it, and Alaska has more autonomy than Alberta, and Canada does. But yes, I mean, like, the fact that she goes, no, what's your reason for that? Indigenous people, I'm like, that's why you're opposed to it? The Indigenous people are fine. They're fine. We're not going to round them up or anything. They're going to have their land. Don't worry. They're just going to be in a different country. They're so stupid. Like, they're so insane.
From Edmonton, Sean Amato, City News.
All right. Yes.
Tension.
So, yeah. We're wrapping this up. Basically, conflict of interest. Obviously, we knew this would be a mixture in the public. There's going to be a side like, hey, I don't necessarily feel right about leaving our country, Canada. The founders of this country be ashamed. Well, what founders do you have? Pierre Trudeau? Pierre Trudeau. Yeah, whose son is probably the worst prime minister the country's ever seen. That's your founder? Give me a break. You have no founder. Canada has zero principle. So, we 100% stand with the Albertans, and we want to see them become independent. And not only that, but it seems as if Saskatchewan also wants to leave. So Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan is the most conservative province in all of Canada. And it's no surprising that we've got some polls also calling for Saskatchewan to succeed. No, has there been any efforts of independence for Saskatchewan? No, there hasn't. But I think very possibly, that can change very quickly. Because the more of the Alberta independence movement begins to truck along, the more the Saskatchewan's saying, Alberta's getting away with it. We could try. We can try. But here's the thing, how I think about it. Saskatchewan's not going to be its own state. Saskatchewan is not going to be its own country. It has a choice to make. It's going to have to merge with Alberta. I'm just telling you, blank obvious honesty. Because it can't afford to stand by itself. It can afford to stay with Canada, but if it wants to leave Canada, then they're going to have to choose to merge with Alberta, which would result to a greater Alberta. I think that would be way better for Alberta economically. For Saskatchewan, economically, they benefit. And once they do that, they're going to have to choose join the United States or become its own independent country. Everyone's saying, they're going to go and join the United States. No one has ever talked about that yet. Red Eagle Politics. Love the guy. He's saying maybe join the United States. I think that's a stretch. Because, yeah, I do think Albertans would love to join the United States. But that's another process. If this referendum were to succeed in 2026, it would become its own independent country. It would take them a couple years for Alberta to get into the United States. Because who knows? Some Albertans might not want to join the United States. Some Albertans want to create their own laws. This would be like a Texas sort of deal. And maybe like in 10 years or 5 years, 15 years, they'll then join the United States. and I'm not opposed to it. I absolutely, for electoral purposes, support Alberta and Saskatchewan to join the Union. Not Canada, though. Canada needs to stay far away. We want nothing to do with them. They can collapse. And they will collapse. If Alberta actually gets away with this, they're going to collapse. Because what else? What else? Who else wants to succeed? Other than Alberta? So, Quebec, right? You have... I thought I saw one. Yes, you'll see a slim majority of Canadians say Alberta separation should be taken seriously. Yes, you'll see clearly as Alberta lurches towards a potential referendum on seceding from Canada, a majority of Canadians think the threat of separation should be taken seriously. Of course, you'll see numbers here. A new Leaguer poll for the Association of Canadian Studies show that 52% of the Canadians believe the threat should be taken seriously. A view that's held most strongly in Alberta itself. And those are probably the critics of the pro-loyal Canadians in Alberta. But there's also mentioned of Quebec. So yes, it says here, while 52% of Canadians think Alberta separation should be taken seriously, 42% think Quebec separation should be taken seriously. Quebec has been mentioned for a pretty long time, in and out in regards to independence. Since the 2010s, there was talk of a potential independent Quebec. There hasn't been because, number one, Justin Trudeau's from Quebec. He's from Montreal or Toronto. I am not sure which one, but they're both of them. Actually, no. Toronto is in. I correct myself. It's in. I think he's from Montreal. Yes, he's from Quebec, and he is French speaking. Quebecois name of Trudeau is French. Canadian. So yeah, then again, Ottawa had a good grip in Quebec. Not anymore. Mark Carney's the prime minister. No real grip of Quebec anymore. Who's going to? Could Quebec push for independence also? Well, you have Alberta, Saskatchewan, Quebec now succeeding. You're going to have other provinces breaking apart. This is exactly how the Soviet Union fell apart. So yes, I think we're looking at a collapse of Canada, and it potentially if Alberta gets away with this, and obviously we know what caused it. It's corruption, and Canada needs to course correct. They need to respect, let people live their own lives. Stop flying drones into people's houses and tell them how to live their life. Let people be. Let people own a gun. Let people hunt. Less government control. Otherwise, your provinces are going to start leaving. So, anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Anyway, let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.